Greed is good. What a divisive sentence. That's Gordon Gekko's catchphrase, the archetypal unscrupulous capitalist. Some say it's the catchphrase of capitalism itself. Greed is good. Greed drives people to do some horrible things. But it is also good. Depending on your perspective. Take for instance, your desire to exist. Existing is quite greedy. Chickens and carrots have to give their lives to sustain you. If you weren't so greedy, you'd surrender that expensive physical body you're keeping and let it be used to sustain the lives of vultures, rats, worms and mushrooms. Because vultures, rats, worms and mushrooms have no compunctions about being greedy. So that's obvious, but let's have a more nuanced conversation. Have you ever heard of Richard Dawkins' selfish gene? It's a fascinating read. Dawkins argues that the basic unit of Darwinian natural selection is the gene, not the species, not the organism. When male bears kill bear cubs, that is not in the best interest of the survival of the bear species. When roosters charge headfirst at a fox to protect the hens, that is not in the best interest of that rooster's survival. But killing the cub does increase that particular bear's chances of reproducing, and the rooster's sacrifice does protect his own genetic offspring. There's plenty to argue against being greedy. What about other people? What about other species? What about the planet? Don't they matter? Well, let's ask Dawkins. You can think of yourself as a machine designed and built by genes that want to replicate themselves. You have all of your own genes, which makes you your own top priority in many circumstances. If you're starving and you see food, you steal it and you eat it. You don't investigate who you're stealing it from. You don't investigate who might need it as much as you. You steal it and you eat it. If you're not starving, then you start caring about things like who you'd be stealing from and who might need it as much as you. From an evolutionary perspective, this is because the people around you likely share a fair amount of your genes. The better off you are, the more your genes want you to help those around you. The better those around you are doing, the wider you spread your care. For a lot of us, the world is quite survivable. We share approximately 84% of our DNA with dogs, which is not nothing. So it's in our genetic self-interest to protect dogs if it's reasonably possible to do so, and it is, so we do. Being genetically greedy or selfish is the precise mechanism that drives individual altruism. We care about each other, and animals, and the planet, because of our selfish genes. See? Not only is just wanting to exist greedy, but so is wanting to help the poor, so is wanting to save dogs from abuse. From a certain perspective. So individual self-interest and common interest are values that stem from the same genetic drive. Part of the argument is the fact that there are many situations in which every individual, every selfish gene, would benefit more if individuals acted in the common interest first and self-interest second. If everybody did what is best for everybody, everybody would be better off. So why doesn't everybody do what is best for everybody? It's impossible to answer that question to satisfaction, but evolution has provided us with a glimpse of what it would look like if we did. Ants and bees actually evolved so that an entire community functions as if it were a single organism. Worker bees can't procreate, only the queen can. So workers go out and risk their lives, often sacrificing their lives for any small benefit to the hive. The life of a worker is as important as a cell in our bodies. It does its job, dies, and is replaced. No one misses the worker when it is gone. Meanwhile, the queen does absolutely nothing but give birth constantly, every day, forever. From a certain perspective, you could say the queen is exploiting the workers. You could say she sits around while they risk their lives to feed her and build her hive. From another perspective, you could say the workers exploit the queen. They go around living their lives while she does nothing but pump out more and more of them. From a certain perspective, you could say that Jeff Bezos is exploiting us. You could say he sits around getting rich off of our labor and dollars. From another perspective, you could say it is all of us who exploit Bezos. While we spent the last 30 years living our lives, he spent every day of the last 30 years working his life away to build a network so we can hit one button and 2 days later, whatever we want in the whole world shows up on our doorstep. And we paid him for the stuff we got through his network, but we never paid him for building it. If that's not exploitation, I don't know what is. But humans and bees are not the same. If Jeff Bezos is able to use the money we paid him to control all of our lives, there is no perspective about it. That is exploitation. Such abuse is a very real possibility, and people must remain aware of that risk. But Jeff Bezos is not controlling our lives. In fact, the government of the United States was painstakingly designed to be convoluted and diverse and decentralized specifically to make it harder for people like Jeff Bezos, or Donald Trump, to control our lives. And at the moment, it's still impossible. Not too long ago, Donald Trump controlled the highest office of the most powerful country in the history of the world. Even so, in order to do anything, he had to answer to the Senate, the House of Representatives, the Supreme Court, 50 state governors, 50 state legislatures, 50 state Supreme Courts, and of course 350 million individuals raised to believe in individual liberty. So from a certain perspective, Jeff Bezos was being greedy when he built a system that makes all of our lives easier. And we are being greedy when we give him billions of our dollars. Is greed good? Well, a three-word catchphrase leaves little room for nuance. Thank you for spending some time with a man with no shoes. Please like and subscribe if you got anything out of it, leave a comment if you have any thoughts worth sharing, and join me next week to correct one of the foundational theories of economics.